Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker Show. This week we have a double contest announcement because we're announcing the winners of our Nordic contest last week and the NXP Hackathon 2021 that has been going on for the last few months. However, we also have some very interesting developments in terms of news, we have some new products and some fantastic projects as always. So let's get on with the show. To begin the show this week, we have a number of projects, beginning with a human-following robot with a bit of a difference. And that's because it is a bit of a unit. This is a large robot that can carry heavy weights and is quite rugged. It is designed for use on a farm. So I found out about this on the Hackaday blog, and I will link this blog post in the description because all of the relevant links that I'm going to show you are from the body of this blog. However, the video that was put up about this shows it in action, and as you can see, it's a fairly robust looking little thing. Now, the fact that the video footage is sped up doesn't really mean anything. You wouldn't want this thing careening around too fast, especially if it's carrying a lot of heavy bags. But the thing about this that is quite incredible is that this went from idea to fruition in only 6 weeks. And if you're interested in finding out how he did it, there is a full project page here. This is the project page that was as part of his coursework at the Université La Salle, which is probably not how French people would pronounce it, in northern France. This takes you through every step of how it comes together. Everything from the initial concept, like it says here, to smaller versions that were built just to test things out, to these full frame welded together, very strong chassis for the robot itself. And as you saw from the video, it is capable of carrying a lot of things. Everything is here, from the bill of materials through to the different sensors used and different ways in order and different iterations of ways that you could make it work. So here you can see is the initial prototyping. This is just a fantastic project from start to finish, which uses a lot of different skills, because this isn't just a programming project, this isn't just a hobby microcontroller put things together on breadboards project. This took some real fabrication, and it is a definitely. I hope he got a good mark for it, because he certainly deserves to. It's a fantastic project. Up next, the Apollo guidance computer. Now, I remember this image, or at least one like it, rather well, because my IT teacher at school showed us this picture of the Apollo guidance computer and then held up the T89 calculator, or whichever calculator it was, and said that this calculator has more calculating power than the guidance computer that sent us to the moon. And I found that fascinating, and if I wasn't already interested in computers, it might have knocked me over the edge. Which is why I love this project so much. Now, for some reason, this is a very nostalgic thing, and it seems odd considering I wasn't alive for the prime Apollo mission timeframe. But yes, as you can see, this is a faithful-ish recreation of the Apollo guidance computer using a custom PCB, a couple of LCD screens, and some keypads. Behind the scenes are a couple of Arduino Nanos and an Arduino Mega, and as the video down here shows, when it is plugged into a computer, it acts as a serial host, and it can talk to a browser-based version of the Apollo guidance computer. Just a really lovely project that, like I said, for some reason hits me in the nostalgia. So yes, if you are a lover of non-science fiction spacefaring history, this might be of interest to you, and the maker is selling them on Tindy, although at the time of making this, they are actually out of stock. Moving on to machine learning on the Arduino. Now, on last week's show, we talked about an upcoming talk by Massimo Banzi about TinyML. There is now another AI library, which is kind of incredible by the looks of it. This is, as it says, an AI-ML framework written in C for even the smallest microcontrollers, and it's called what I'm going to call Alphys, just because I think that's a nicer way of calling it, or Alphys. It's ALFES. Now, this is a project from the Fraunhofer Institute for Microelectronic Circuits and Systems here in Germany. And in short, this is a very interesting article. It's worth reading through all of it, but I can show you this. This is all you really need to see. This is something that has been trained on an Arduino Nano 33BLE Sense, so not a particularly powerful microcontroller. This was trained on the board, not trained on a separate PC and then the model exported and put onto the board. This board has been trained to classify fruit by color. Which is no easy feat, even on kind of slightly more chunky software. This is about the level of training and getting machine learning models working that I was capable of when I was doing it on Raspberry Pi. I've said many times that it's something I'm interested in, do not have the technical ability to do, but seeing this is super exciting, and when I do have a bit of spare time, I would love to play with the library. I'll leave it at that. Go and read this article. It is very fascinating, and all of the relevant links you need if you want to get involved and download the library can be found here in the article, or you can get it directly in the Arduino IDE as in the Arduino library section. Hey folks, this is Future Editing Ian here, and I'm right at the end of making this week's show. I'm just about to export it when I see this on Twitter. Now, this looks super exciting. no further news other than Okdo, who, if you may remember, put out the E1 development board. They also are a supplier of general all nice things maker and electronics, have something exciting for Raspberry Pi fans coming. And looking at its form factor, it's really, I have no idea what that could be. Is this an I2C connector, sorry, that turns a microcontroller into something that is compatible with GPIO pins? Could there be an RP2040 chip on the bottom of this board that breaks it out into what look like normal header pins for a Raspberry Pi? I have absolutely no idea, but we'll keep it, as it says here, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled, and we'll be coming back to this on the show for sure. Moving over to the Electromaker website with the Pico Keypad. Now, this is a project from Mukesh Sankla, and this is a fully homemade macro pad, every single part of it 3D printed or put together by hand using very simple components. It uses the Raspberry Pi Pico, as the name might suggest, but everything that you can see here has been 3D printed. And here it is next to a regular keyboard. Now, there are lots of macropad projects out there, some of which are very fancy, some of which use mechanical keys, but all of these have a bit more of a price tag attached to them. This one, as far as I can work out, if you already have a 3D printer and some plastic, I know that isn't free, but then you already have the bits you need to make that. You don't have to actually order anything new. And since the Pi Pico can be got for around $5, and other than that, there's just a bunch of switches, this is a very cheap project to put together. Because as you can see, it just uses the GPIO pins that are already available on the Pico to attach to an array of 9 switches, and these keys are designed to fit under those switches. So as you can see here, these slot nicely into the 3D printed case, and the keys are designed to fit on top of those buttons. A deceptively simple but very well realized project, and one that I thought was definitely worth putting on this week's show. Before moving on, a very quick piece of housekeeping. If you are not already subscribed to the Electromaker YouTube channel, please consider doing so. Just under the video here, this subscription button, you click it, then you are subscribed to our channel. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get spammed with notifications from us. It just means that when you go to the subscriptions area on your channel, videos will show up. As it happens, this is the only thing that this channel is subscribed to, so there's quite a lot of me in there, but every subscribed video will be here in a nice digest for you. Now, one thing you can do if you really are enjoying the show is sign up for some notifications, and you do that by clicking this little bell here and selecting All. Now, that won't give you desktop notifications unless you've enabled them in your browser, but it will mean that this little notification bell here in the top right will be populated with the shows that we put out. Every time we upload to the channel, you will get a little notification here. However, we upload once a week only to the Electromaker channel. Typically, there are exceptions to that, but mostly once a week. So you will come to YouTube, you'll have a little nice notification mark here, and you will see a show has gone up the moment that it has. And of course, if you like the show, clicking like is very useful too. It doesn't just show us that you like it, but it shows YouTube that you like it. And in fact, all three of these things are really a way of you telling YouTube that you like the show enough that you think it is worth sharing, rather than telling us directly. It does really, really help us. So those three things are things that you can do to help us on YouTube. And there's no obligation to do any of it, but if you do, it will help us a lot. We also have a Discord server, and you can find a link to that in every single video, along with on the Electromaker website. It's free to join, anyone can join it, and we're looking forward to it becoming a nice community where people can share things they're working on and generally chat, and maybe help each other out when they get stuck on a bit of electronic projects and coding and things like that. And finally, we have a shop. I know some of you have been heading to the shop already to get components for your maker projects. It is massively appreciated. This is definitely the best way that you can support us. It is a direct financial contribution to the show. But in general, if you are supporting the show in any one of the ways I've just said, I would like to thank you so much. This channel is growing quite quickly, and it is very, very nice to see, and it is thanks to you showing us support, so thank you very much for that. But anyhow, let's get on with the rest of the show. This is the part of the show where we would typically have the mystery box competition. That is a competition where we take an item of electronics out of the mystery box provided to us by Mouser, and we give it away to one of our viewers. But this week is a little bit different, because we have two separate contests to announce winners for. The first is the NXP Hackathon 2021, which is an Electromaker hosted contest which has been going on for the last few months, and the other is the Nordic Semiconductors competition that we started on last week's show. So going in reverse order, the Nordic NRF5340 kit that I showed on last week's show, that is nicely boxed up just out of reach over here, is going to be given away to Mark Redman. There are a few people that gave us some really nice ideas for what they would do if they did get the kit, but there's something about this one that speaks to me personally. We would like to upgrade from Arduino programming. This is exactly what I did when I started working with STM32 chips, taking that first step away from the Arduino IDE and the nicely written libraries and the very easy to understand code into slightly more professional territory can be a bit of a terrifying terrifying step, and some nice hardware can certainly help along the way. So Mark, congratulations, we'll be in touch with you as to how we can get this board out to you. And to anyone else who is thinking of making that jump, like I said in both the article I wrote about the NRF5340 development kit and the talking about it on last week's show, it is a really lovely piece of kit. I think, like I said then, I say it again now, as much as I'm very glad you're going to be getting this, Mark, there's a part of me that wishes I could keep it and keep tinkering with it. Moving on to the NXP Hackathon 2021. Now, I announced this on the show a few months ago when it began, but for those of you that maybe don't know, Electromaker runs contests pretty much all the time, and they all follow a fairly similar theme. That is that you can pitch an idea based on some hardware that is suggested by us, and if your project is chosen, you will be sent that hardware for free in order to do that. Now, that doesn't necessarily happen in every single contest that we do, but it has pretty much the entire time that I've been a part of Electromaker. This contest concentrated on one of two boards with a number of add-ons. So those boards were the MIMX RT1010 and RT1020, two very powerful evaluation boards for NXP microprocessors, and there were a number of potential hats you could have on as well. There was a temperature and humidity hat, there was an accelerometer hat, hats for driving stepper motors, things like that. And as you can see, this contest wasn't just for bragging rights. There was some very real prizes involved. So as well as receiving the hardware to make your project for free, if your project is a prize winner, you could win $1,000 as the first prize, and then there's a $500 for the second and third prizes as well. And those winners have now been chosen. So let's have a look at the three winning entries. There's the running faucet alarm by Knaveen, the remote patient monitoring by Taifur, and the reinforcement learning-based illumination controller by Maverick Bits coming in first, second, and third. Let's have a very quick look at all three of those. So the third place entry by Maverick Bits is a reinforcement learning-based illumination controller. Now this is a fantastic write-up that goes through the idea behind it, the theory as to how it could all fit together, how it will work on a hardware level, and then there is an implementation of it down here in the physical world. To try and describe it very briefly, this is a learning system that learns how you like the lighting in your home and then will reproduce it automatically. As it says in the text here, many automatic lighting systems are either too abrupt or work too slowly. The idea behind this is it uses a mixture of the ambient light settings that are there and learned behaviors of what you like for light based on time of day, and it will learn how to change the lighting in your house automatically for that. A fantastic project and a worthy third position. In second place, we have the remote patient monitor by Taifur. Now, the idea behind this is in rural places, it isn't so easy to necessarily get medical care, and even when you do, you see a doctor for a very brief amount of time. This setup here is designed to be able to monitor patients in real time and send that data to the cloud, so that not only do you have a big backlog of data about patients, you're able to see remotely exactly how patients are doing in a number of ways. Specifically here, it is an oximeter sensor, pulse oximeter, and an IR thermometer sensor, so oxygen saturation and temperature in general. It is using the IMX RT2020 development kit, one of the two that we gave away for the competition. And this essentially takes readings and sends them to the AWS cloud. A compact but fantastic use of this, and of course, as with all things on development boards, this thing is quite large, but you could crush this down into a very, very small form factor and turn this into a real product that could really help people. A fantastic project and a worthy second place. There can only be one winner, however, and that winner is Naveen with the running faucet alarm. Now, on the surface, this project seems relatively simple. There is a microphone on the RT1010 development kit, pictured here, and when it picks up the sound of running water, it will display the word faucet on an OLED screen, it will set off a buzzer, and it will also notify the cloud via Wi-Fi using this M5 add-on kit just here. But this project goes a little bit deeper than just using the raw on or off state of noise. And that's because it uses machine learning to determine the difference between the faucet running and background noise, a fantastic idea that uses TensorFlow Lite, which we'll get into in just a moment. The hardware side of things is also very interesting, however, because this hat fits onto the RT1010 development kit, and once it's on there, the pins are covered, you can't add anything else. But the hat itself, this is a real-time clock hat, has I2C pins here, and that allows attaching multiple devices, including the buzzer, including the Grove kit, and including the OLED screen. And that required a nice little custom bit of perf board here to match up all the headers. Just a really nice little addition, a little custom adapter. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Most of the projects in this contest used MCO Expresso IDE, that is the free IDE provided by NXP for working with these development kits and their chips in general. And as mentioned, there is in this particular project a TensorFlow Lite model running on the chip itself, which determines the difference between background noise and faucets. Training your own model using edge impulse is a fantastic thing to do. We've talked about that in the show a couple of times. This is a very complete idea that has been put together in a very good way and an absolutely worthy winner of this competition. Congratulations, Naveen. This is the kind of development thing that comes together in a contest that can turn into a real life idea that can really help somebody. But yeah, just in general, well done. This is a fantastic project and congratulations. It is time for a quick funding website things, and this is Crowd Supply and the Wappsto bit. This is such a wonderful thing. I don't know why this pleases me so much, but it does, because look at this chunky microbit, and it essentially is that. This is actually several different boards under one name. There'll be several different versions of it. This one is the Wappsto Bit Go, I believe is what they're calling it. The Wappsto Bit Go, yes. And as you can see, it looks a little bit like a microbit, but it is chunky, it is big, and that is because it has an onboard ESP32 on it, and it does everything that a microbit will do, and of course more. And yeah, it's just, I don't know why, but the aesthetics of this thing tickle me so much. It really pleases me. But it's also a really wonderful idea. Because as you may well know, the NRF chips inside the microbit are incredibly powerful. I've been talking about them on this week and last week's show because of the prize we've given away. I'm very impressed with how they are to use, but they are only Bluetooth capable. This adds Wi-Fi to the board. This is a chunky microbit. That said, if you already have a microbit, the Wappsto Bit Basic is a carrier board for your microbit. So you can just slot that in and get all the same benefits as the Wappsto Bit Go. I don't know why I find Wappsto such a difficult thing to say. There are also two other planned versions here. NB-IoT, which comes with a cellular modem, and NB-IoT Plus, which comes with a cellular modem and a GPS receiver. I'm sure there'll be more information on that when this goes live, because as you can see from the form factor, this is a pre-launch project. So I will leave it at that for now. This is super exciting. We'll definitely be coming back to it, and as always, if you want updates, you can enter your email address into the box here. Moving on to Izirun, which is a modular system for working with STM32 development boards. Now, as you're seeing in the video right here, there is a bottom carrier board with an edge connector on it, and there are three different edge connectors you can add to it. An M0, M4, and M7 are all ARM Cortex chips, all STM32s, all things that are very valuable to learn. After Arduino, STM32 was the thing I went to first, and I didn't really have much time to learn all that much about it before my life got very busy, and I go back to it when I have the time to. But if I had access to something like this, I think I'd be very happy, because having different small development boards for different chips is no problem whatsoever. But having a modular system where you could put things in and out just seems like a really nice idea. And it just seems like a perfect educational tool for someone who wanted to teach themselves the in and outs of how to program, whether it be bare metal or whether it's using the little kernel. I think that's what they use here. Is it mini Linux or Linux? Little Linux, I think it's called. Little kernel, I believe that's what it's called. Yep, I had a complete brain fart for a second there, I apologize. We maintain a little kernel image for our demos, and little kernel is something we'll maybe go into on another show. And yeah, it is exactly what it says on the tin, and I think that is a fantastic thing in and of itself. So in short, if you want to try a plethora of different ARM Cortex chips with a baseboard that breaks out everything they can do, including Ethernet, then this is a fantastic way of getting there. Now, they're right at the very beginning of their funding. They've only raised $400 odd of the $6,000 they're after. But if you are interested in getting it, they're selling all of these things separately or as a kit. So it's $30 for the F0 one, $45 for the F4 one, $60 for the F7, and then the board itself is $50 as well. So these things are a little bit more expensive than maybe your cheapest development boards you can get from AliExpress, but I would argue that if you do want to learn how to use these things, something that allows you to swap things out quickly and that breaks everything out would be a very useful development tool, whether you are learning or whether you are already working on something in production. But that's just my opinion. I may not know what I'm talking about, of course. We're going to close out this week's show with just a few bits of news and updates and things like that. And we're beginning with what is certainly the most exciting story of the week for me personally, and that is that the new NodeMCU boards, they are the ESP32-C3 boards with the RISC-V cores, are now showing up available to purchase for very, very cheap. And I found out this news from CNX Software, a site I find indispensable for all of my embedded systems news. They don't sponsor us or anything. In fact, I'm just personally a patron of them because I'm on this site every single day. But yes, here are the kits, and they are, as it says, available here on AliExpress. I'm not going to put this exact listing into the description or anything because, well, first things first, there is a link in this article which links to just a search page, so you can search through to find one that might be cheaper for your location or whatever. But yeah, here it is, essentially. This is the RISC-V version of the ESP32-C3S. I've been calling it the CS3, haven't I? Or just C3? Who knows? This is exciting for a number of reasons. I have been wanting to get my hands on a RISC-V board for a while. I've been sort of putting it off. I know I have little time. I've always been a fan of NodeMCU boards. From the very first ESP8266 board that I had, I was one of the many people that decried Arduino as being dead and for a little while did everything with ESP8266 boards. And of course, that turned out not to be true. There's some things you want an Arduino Nano for. I have an Arduino Nano RP2040 Connect around here somewhere that I've been reviewing, and I love that board as well. Just at the time, it was very exciting. So having an ESP32 board that has a RISC-V chip inside it is going to be very, very interesting. There's a bunch of information on it here, but also if you want to know a little bit more, up here at the top, there is a link to the actual processor, the news article they had about the processor itself, which shows you the breakdown here, along with everything else you need to know about it. But yes, in short, a powerful little microcontroller that is pin-to-pin compatible with the ESP8266, so if you really wanted to, you could just get one of those chips and place it down on a NodeMCU you already have. But why would you bother doing that when you can just spend the extra $2 or whatever it is to get a development board pre-built? Up next, an article from Adafruit about HomeSpan. Now, this is a development board designed to work with the Apple HomeKit. Now, we haven't talked about Apple HomeKit or anything like that too much, and it's not because I particularly hate Apple products, I just haven't used them for many years because the money I would put into investing in an Apple computer, I've always been able to get much more hardware for. For context, I once did own an iMac, but when it came to upgrading the iMac, I bought a top-grade PC, Windows PC for video editing, and a fairly chunky secondary laptop to run Linux on for the same price I would have got a fairly mid-price iMac for. And for me, that was enough to kind of move away from the ecosystem, and I haven't really looked back. But I'm not against it as such, and I do know that some people really do like being in that single ecosystem, and HomeKit is a part of that. If you have an iPhone and you use Apple products, you probably want to have an Apple smart home as well. I completely understand that. So this is very interesting. This is a robust, easy-to-use library for ESP32 for HomeKit devices. That's kind of all there is to it. I just really wanted to highlight it because I know there are some people out there who do use Apple ecosystems and that would want to start hacking their own smart home if they could. So I'll leave a link to this in the description. There's a little bit more context here, and most importantly, the GitHub repo you can get to from this link at the bottom just here. And finally on this week's show, a suggestion from the Electromaker Discord server. And we do have a channel on the Discord server for show suggestions. And in fact, Phobos Demos has given us 2 suggestions, one of which I was going to mention in the show before last, perhaps, and unfortunately got cut due to time constraints. So I'm going to mention it briefly here now. Gary Explains YouTube channel, which is one that we have probably had on the show before. If we haven't, search Gary Explains on YouTube and subscribe. He's fantastic. Is doing a very interesting series on RISC-V, and given what we just talked about, it's probably worth checking out. But the other thing that they mentioned is this interesting looking panel discussion around FPGAs. And this is on the Element 14 website, and as it says here, this is getting started with FPGAs, an expert panel discussion, in that these are experts that will tell you the best way to get started with FPGAs. And it's something that I am very interested in. It's still something that seems like a very unknown continent to me. They seem very alien, the way that you work with FPGAs when compared to other microcontrollers, but then, as I've said many times before, my level of skill isn't all that high. But there's a lot of interesting things here, and if you read through it, I'm sure you will know very quickly whether this talk will be for you or not. There will also be a short Q&A here as well. The talk itself is on the 22nd of the 7th, so the 22nd of this month, July. And if you want to take part, you can apply here. My site's in German, yours probably won't be, but this button here is where you can click. You will need to create an Element 14 membership, but then after that you can apply to be part of this panel discussion. That's been our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all the support you are showing us, and if you're enjoying the show, please do consider subscribing to the channel. But for now, I hope you have a fantastic, safe and creative week, and I will see you in the next one.